Hey y'all, it's me, your favorite friend and host, Kiana, and you are listening to Chats with Friends, the show where we talk about all things life, love, relationships, healing, all of the things. And thank you so much for stopping by. How the heck have you been? How have I been, you ask? Y'all, we have so much to talk about. So grab your drink of choice and a snack so we can chat. Welcome back to another episode of Chats with Friends. I am your host, Kiana, and I am super duper glad that you are here with me today, that you took time out of your day to hang out with me. So thank you for stopping by. If you have not done so, please stop right now, push pause, and make sure you subscribe and like and comment and all of the things. And also tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend about Chats with Friends and how we get down over here on this show and how we chop it up all things life, love, relationships, work, kids, jobs, health, working out, travel, Jesus himself into the conversation, and I'm super duper glad about it. So speaking of subscribers, we have officially got into the double digits of subscribers on YouTube. We are at 10, and I know that that does not sound like a huge number to you, but it is a ginormous number to me. When I started this YouTube channel, I had 0 subscribers. I started this show audio only and just went into video just this year. So thank you all for making the commitment and clicking that subscribe button. So thank you so much for your subscribes down to the YouTube. And for those of you who are listening on audio only, thank you. You've been rocking with me for some time over there, and we'll continue to rock on audio only. But if you've clicked on my face and are seeing me live and in color, thank you. Thank you for all 10 of you who have subscribed, and let's make it 20. Let's make it 100. So I need you to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and like and comment and down in the comments, and let's chop it up down there as well. So let's get to it. But before we do any of that, you know how we do it over here on Chats with Friends. This chair, listen, God damn it. Oh, Lord. I was just talking about God, too, and this chair. And rewind. Now that we've gotten all of the logistics out the way, let's get into the conversation. But we're going to start the conversation off with an icebreaker. And we are going to use the and cards. And the and cards that I use, it's upside down, that I use often on this show. I got them, I found out about this organization or this company on Instagram. And I have several decks of these cards. There's the Friends edition, the Self edition, the Family edition, the Couples edition, the Healing edition, all of those various other editions. So these cards actually are from the Friends edition. I've pre-picked some cards. I don't know. I picked 4. I don't know which of the 4 I'm going to pick, so that's going to be random, but I did pick the 4 out of the deck. And so today's icebreaker question of the 4 that I picked is, if you could choose 3 people to share an intimate meal with, who would it be and why? The question does not specify if the people are here in the physical or not. So I'm going to first pick DeAndre, my son. So I would love to share an intimate meal with DeAndre, and intimacy, as I have come to learn, not necessarily recently, but I think more in my adulthood. I think intimacy previously for me had this definition around romantic relationships, but intimacy can certainly be shared amongst platonic and in platonic friendships and relationships and family, etc. So, into me, you see is sort of the definition of sorts to intimacy. So, DeAndre would be my first choice to share an intimate meal with for all of the reasons. Um, there's a couple other, there's several other people that come to mind. Um, but the next person that I would love to share an intimate meal with would be Oprah Winfrey. Oprah is Oprah. I don't know if there needs to be much more um, explanation. She is, aside from her sort of business prowess or business acumen, is just her thought process and how she has come to be and embody all that she has come to be and embody, from where she came from, the humble beginnings that she came from, to this global empire, and how she navigates the spaces that she navigates, because she doesn't necessarily appeal to, which she gets a lot of backlash from, she doesn't necessarily appeal to black people or black women. She does appeal to them, but I don't necessarily think that's her target audience. She is able to appeal to all manner of woman and man, which is a unique, I think, unique gift that she has in communicating and being able to connect with all people of all walks of life. And so I would love to just, as someone who has admired her from afar for so long, someone who admires her craft, her ability to communicate, her ability to connect, her ability to engage, and just authentically be herself, is something that I would love to be in connect and conversation with her about. So Oprah would be one. The other people that I would choose to be an intimate conversation with. And then I'm almost surprised I'm getting ready to say this, but as I think about it, I'm thinking of what comes to mind in this moment. This is really in the moment response is someone who, like, I living in Chicago, driving down the street, I often pass a number of people who have, from my seat and my perspective, have seemingly fallen on hard times, whatever that means or looks like, in that they are either unhoused or they are, seemingly living on the streets. And I would be very, very, very intrigued and somewhat honored to be in a conversation with someone and just understand them more holistically, outside of who they are in this moment, that we see them on the side of the road with their signs, and understand their story and how they got to where they got to. I would be interested in that. Would be who I would want to be in an intimate conversation with, just to learn more about their humanity, to learn more about them as a human on the earth, and to understand them and to inspire them and to give them hope and inspiration. I think if I was to give something to them, that's what I would want to give to them. So those are the three people. I did not necessarily, I knew I was going to pick Oprah and DeAndre. I did know that if I got that question, I knew when I saw that question, I knew that those two people were going to be the two that I was going to list. I'm surprised at the third. And don't necessarily know where that came from, but alas, that is, those are the three folks that I would choose to share an intimate meal with. So, who would you like to share an intimate meal with? Who are the 1 to 3 people that you would like to share an intimate meal with? I would love to hear from you in the chat. So Aside from that, we like to eat snacks and we like to drink beverages of our choice over here. So what are y'all eating and drinking? I'm obviously very interested in that as well. I am drinking my favorite and very basic and very normal and very regular sparkling water with Crystal Light drops is what I'm drinking today and what I drink every day. Very, very typical drink of choice for me. And of course, if you're not drinking out of a glass straw, what are you actually really doing? I mean, what are you actually really doing? So, um, if you haven't gotten any glass straws, I encourage you to do so. Amazon is where you'll find them. Anywho, now that we got the icebreaker out the way, we have reminded you to like, we have reminded you to share, and we have reminded you to subscribe. We have celebrated our 10 YouTube subscribers, and we are on a mission to double that, triple that, quadruple that, and to actually get that to at least 100 subscribers. Like, let me see. And this is on the cuff too. I didn't plan this. I didn't plan this either. But getting us to 100 subscribers, gosh, by the end of this year, is that doable? I think that's doable. I think that's more than doable. So partner with me. Let's lock hands and let's get us to 100 subscribers by the end of this year. So that might be a very small goal. I don't even know in the stratosphere of YouTube, like what I'm supposed to be, what the numbers are supposed to number. I don't know, but that feels like a stretch. That feels like a stretch to me. And that feels like a challenge to me, and that feels exciting, and it feels somewhat doable, but it feels scary. So there's that. Okay. Anywho, for the 17th time, we're moving on from all of that. And what I want to talk with you all today about is a couple things. And before I go down the whole goddamn rabbit hole that I'm going to go down with you all, I want to ask you all the question. And I know that you're not going to answer in this moment because you're not here to answer in the moment. But I beg you, I implore you to answer these questions in the chat, because I do want to know about your experiences with therapy. So how many of you are in therapy? Have you been in therapy at some point in your life? Do you think therapy is necessary? All of the things. So sound off in the chat. I'd love to hear your perspectives and your experiences with therapy. Because I've been in therapy for most of my life. Most of my adult life. I feel like I've been in therapy off and on for a number of reasons, right? And it's something that I think is really important and has been critical and pivotal for me in my adult life. But I recently got back in therapy after being out not off of therapy, but out of therapy for like a year. So my therapist ended up leaving the practice that she was at, and she went out on her own and no longer took my insurance. So there's that. So I had gotten to a point where I felt like I was like good. And so I was, finding a therapist is a whole full-time job. So there's that. But I had gotten to a point where I felt like I was stable enough. And so I was just sort of navigating life without a therapist. And then 2024 entered the chat, or actually the end of 2023 entered the chat. And life began to life at a pace and at an intensity that I had not experienced in a while. And so I found myself very much needing therapy. I was finding myself sort of at my wit's end. I was really struggling to just figure things out, and to have some space and time and just, all of the things. So, yeah, I found a new therapist, and she has been figuratively kicking my ass. She has been kicking my whole entire ass, and welcomed. I'm embracing it. I'm going with it. It's what I need and want. But Jesus, Joseph, and Mary, my God, um, it has been quite a journey, I will say. So I found her in around June. I started the early part of June with her, and if I could back up just a moment, as I mentioned, finding a therapist, I would consider a pretty big undertaking, right? The research, the intake forms, the filling out your, all your information over and over and over again as you find therapists, interview therapists, just going to different places to see if the therapist that you might be interested is taking new clients. If they're not, sort of defaulting to who is available. It's a process. It's quite an intense process that can be somewhat flustering and frustrating. And so I say that to say that if you are in the process of looking for a therapist, or you have a therapist that you may or may not love, or is not working for you, or whatever, you might have to kiss a few frogs in order for you to find the one that is aligned with you. So it's going to take some work. So there's just this amount of work that I'm just sharing with you, that you're going to have to commit to the process in order to get the outcomes that you want to get. So I did that. I went through all of that. Many therapists, many intake forms, many filling out all the insurance, many copies of my medical card, all of that, uploading it to their portals, all of the intro calls. There was many of them until I found my therapist. And what I was looking for in therapy and in a therapist, life was becoming a bit much for me at the moment, or at the time. And what I really was seeking was a place to process, and a place to cry, and a place to sort of unpack all of the many moving parts and things that I was navigating in my life, in my personal life, in my work life, in my spiritual life, in relationships, family. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. And so I found myself repeatedly saying that, like, you've got to be kidding me. And I'm laughing about it now, but literally, like, I just was like at my wit's end. So what I knew was that I needed and wanted a place to unpack. I knew that I needed and wanted a place to cry and to just fall apart and to just be. And I knew I wanted and needed a place that was going to help me unpack why I keep sort of coming up and bumping up against some very similar things in my life, very similar circumstances in my life that just sort of keep repeating themselves, that I just wanted to, like, get to the bottom of it. And in the spirit of Kiana always wanting to fix things, fix it. And so yeah, I knew that that's what I wanted therapy for. And I say that to say that that might be another place or something to consider, is to be really clear about what you want therapy for. In all the intake forms that I filled out, that was one of the questions that they asked. Why are you seeking therapy? Right. So make sure that you know why you're seeking therapy, because that's going to be a question they're going to ask. I'm just telling you to save yourself some time. And then I knew that I wanted a black woman. I just knew. I wanted to have a black woman, period, point blank, end of story. So I actually found my therapist on Black Girls Therapy website. There's a website that just has a curated list of therapists in whatever city that you're in. So of course I filtered it to my area, and filtered it to therapists that offer virtual therapy as well as in-person therapy, should I want or need to have an in-person session. And those are my criteria. I found her. And I knew that I wanted someone who was going to call me on my shit. I knew that I wanted someone who was going to just be real straight up, no chaser with me. I knew that I needed and wanted someone who was going to challenge me, who was going to push me, who was going to call me out, who was going to call me in, who was going to, just make me think and process and reflect and open up my mind to different ways of doing that. Have a partner in like processing things, and have a new way to sort of approach the way that I process things, and have expand my mind and thinking about my perspective on things, the way I look at things. One thing she always asks me is, essentially like, is that true? Like, what you're saying to me, is that true? Right. And let's think about it this way. Have you thought about it that way? Have you considered this? Have you considered that? Right. There is this space of just kind of talking and dumping and just being like, what the entire fuck? There is that. So gracious in just allowing me space to just unload without judgment, which has been just really, 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 really important. And as much as our friends and family love us and say we all judge, right? We are all judging to some extent. As much as we try not to, the human sort of characteristic of ours is that we judge. Sort of the differentiation between my therapist and my friend or my therapist and my mom, or my therapist and whomever, is this therapist don't know me from a can of paint. She does not know me. She doesn't know my history. She doesn't have that to inform how she might respond to me. Whereas those folks I've been in a relationship with for a long time have a different perspective about, here she go again with the same Negro. I'm just like, they have that. My therapist doesn't have that. So, I just think that there is a certain level of judgment that they don't deploy, therapists, I'm saying, because they don't have that history. Now what I'm also clear about is, as we continue, my therapist is human also. So as we continue to explore and build our relationship, she will have history. She will have information. But she's a trained individual that knows how to help me navigate what I'm currently seeking and what that looks like to prop up the same relationships that keep coming up in my life, for example, and how that's impacting what's showing up in my life now, and giving me tools by which to navigate it going forward, and to ensure that I don't keep crossing the same bridge. So I don't know that we as non-therapists have that skill. to be able to prop those things up, see the value in them, learn the lessons in them, and use them to apply to our right now. So, Earth is ghetto and adulting is trash. I'll just say that. I will just say that. Because, baby, I mean, I don't want to be nowhere else, but I'm just saying. My girlfriend's, I have a girlfriend in Seattle, who oftentimes she'll message me and be like, remember when we used to go to remember when we used to go to the club and just dance? Like, life was so simple when all we had to figure out was what we were going to put on, what outfit we were going to put on, and just dance. And just like, those were the biggest concerns of our lives. At that time, life was so much simpler. Transitioning just a little bit to, you know, the things that I have learned since being in therapy. Now, again, I've been in therapy most of my life. Specifically most of my adult life. And some of this is new learnings, and some of it is, you know, stuff that I've already known, but I've had to remind myself of them, right? So the first thing that I've learned is therapy/healing is hard AF, and it is exhausting. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. Therapy/healing is hard as fuck, and it is exhausting. Why is it hard? Because we are, as society, so trained to sort of just move, go for the next thing, do the next thing, be productive, push it to the side, be strong, never let them see you sweat, like all of that stuff. That requires us not to be in touch with our emotions, and not be in touch with who we are, and not be in touch with the trauma, and not be in touch with the shit that we've gone through in life, and not be in touch with how the divorce affected us, and not be in touch with the fact that our kids are acting a complete fool, and not like just push through and just put one foot in. I mean, like, that is what we are expected to do. And so we are so detached from ourselves and our own feelings that getting attached and being mindful and cautious and connected to what we're actually feeling takes work, takes intention, takes being deliberate, takes slowing down, takes like having audible conversations with ourselves about ourselves, takes us checking the things that we think in our mind, even though we may or may not say them out loud, checking ourselves, checking our thoughts, checking in with ourselves as to, now, what was that? And why did I think that? And why is that the first thing that came to my mind? And why am I feeling a type of way about X, Y, or Z? And not to say that anything bad is going to come from that, but just being mindful and just being aware and just giving ourselves some time and connecting to ourselves requires work. It's going to require the work. So I used to get really super irritated when people say, you got to do the work. You got to. And I just was like, what the fuck? What is the work? Like, it just seemed so abstract and so just like, it wasn't a specific thing. I'm like, the work? What does that mean? Right. And so for those of you who hear that and may have had similar feelings and reactions when you've heard people say, what is the work? For me, and it may be the same for you, maybe not, but for me, the work was and is when I'm thinking of being kind to myself. What does being kind to myself actually look like in practice, right? I would intentionally and deliberately think about if I was being kind to another person and saying kind things to another person, saying those same things to myself. Like, that's how deliberate and intentional that I had to get, and granular I had to get for myself to understand what the work meant. Be kind to myself. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean, right? And so, healing for me and therapy for me is more than, it includes, it does not exclude, it includes getting massages, taking baths, going for walks, for me, going to the gym. Some of the stuff that I've always done, getting my nails done, getting pedicures and manicures, those sorts, buying my favorite lipstick. Those are the things like I've done for myself before. That is part of like centering myself and my needs. And in addition to that, it is listening to myself and how I actually feel when I've got dressed to go to the gym, and actually my body is saying, nah, fam, I'm gonna need you to have a seat. Not today, right? Like, and not saying, I'm gonna push through and I'm gonna be strong and I'm just gonna fight it. No, actually, no. No, I'm not gonna do any of that. I'm actually gonna sit my ass on this couch and watch TV. That's what I'm going to do. And that is taking care of myself. That is being kind to myself. That is what that looks like in practice for me. So I encourage you to sort of explore, the things that may come up for you around being kind. And if you're on this healing journey and therapy journey, when you think of what the work is, what does that look like for you? So the therapy and healing is hard and exhausting is number one. That's one thing I've learned and continue to learn about therapy. Therapy is more than the 1 hour session, one-on-one session that you have with your therapist on the Zoom or in their office. It is more than that. It is also the work that you do after you get off of the call or after you leave the office that sort of reverts back to what I was just saying, all the practices, the things that the therapist has taught you during the session that you actually put into practice in your real life outside of that 1 hour session. Being deliberate and intentional and an active participant in your life is what is required, right? I remember saying to my therapist the other day when we were just talking through like, some practices that she was asking me to consider, and I just was like, what the fuck was I doing before? Like, what? Like, what was I doing before? And what I was doing before was just going on autopilot. And what I was doing before, this is my little desk fan, because when you're 52 and you have hot flashes, you have to have a fan on, even though the air conditioning is on, and it's on 67, and I'm still sweating. So there's that. But therapy can't help me with my hot flashes, so unfortunately. But anyway, as I was saying, it's more than the 1 hour session. It's the work and it's the things that you have to do outside of that 1 hour session, that we have to do outside of that 1 hour session. Another thing that I've learned is therapy is not going to work if you're not honest. And you hear people saying, oh, that therapy doesn't work. That therapist wasn't good, or whatever that means, whatever their definition of not working and they're not good is. Not to discount that is not true for them. But what I do know to be true is that your therapist does not know you. So if you are looking to be in partnership with someone that can help you find some solutions for you about what you are dealing with in your life, you have to disclose your life to them. Like all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the parts that you probably have never told anybody. Um, that's, you have to be honest. Like, your therapist can't read your mind. Your therapist can't see in the past and see what happened in your relationships. Your therapist doesn't know your family. Your therapist doesn't know any of that. So you have to be honest. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be transparent. You have to be open, like wide open. And like in my mind, I'm a very visual type learner. In my mind, I'm thinking of like, when you think of open heart surgery, you think of like the massive surgeries that require your chest to be open so that the doctors or the surgeons can see all inside of you. That's what therapy is going to require. It's going to require you to open up so that the therapist can see inside of you, which is going to require you to tell them, which is going to require you to inform them, and be honest. So these declarations that we make about therapy doesn't work or this therapist is not good, like we have to ask ourselves, have we been honest? Have we told them the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? In order for them to have the information that they need to help us, to provide tools, to provide solutions for us, to provide things for us to try on, new perspectives, new ways of being. If they don't know the old ways of being or the current ways of being, there's no way, they don't have any context. So gotta tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. My therapist gives me homework, and what I've learned is that when she gives me homework, the homework is for me. It's not for her. So if I don't do the homework, I'm the one who's losing. I'm the one who is not getting from this experience what I want to get from this experience. What I know about my therapist in the short time I've worked with her, she's not going to give me something just because she thinks it's a good idea to, just because, like, she's not going to just pick something random. Like the therapy, the homework that she gives me is always, always, always like really applicable and specific to the session that we are having or that we have had. Homework session that she gives me is very much in alignment with what it was that we've talked about, what it is that we've uncovered, going deeper and exploring and getting, opening up that chest cavity, about what it was that we talked about in that particular session. So if I choose not to do I'm talking too fast. If I choose not to do the homework, that's on me. So I'm losing, she's not losing. The homework is for me. So if your therapist gives you homework, do the homework. The homework is not for them. The homework is for you. Another thing I've learned is when she provides tools and suggestions, etc., for me to implement to get the results that I want in my life that I'm paying her for, if she's giving me these tools and this advice and this counsel, and for my life, I have to actually use them. I have to actually apply them. I have to actually try them on. I have to actually get uncomfortable. I have to actually do the thing that's going to require the change in my life that I seek. It's not going to happen by osmosis. So my family members or my friends or my job or whomever is not going to automatically just start honoring my boundaries if I don't enforce them or if I don't make boundaries or create boundaries. They're not going to just automatically start they're not going to automatically just start adhering to the boundaries that I have not set, if you will. So it's just not going to happen. We have to be active participants in our life. So if we want the outcomes that we choose, we cannot depend on someone else. And most recently, the last thing that I want to just touch on here with respect to what I've learned in therapy is that I am actually way more angrier than I thought surrounding the loss of my son. And I'm also much angrier than I thought. Now I'm cold. I'm also much angrier than I thought about the ending of my last relationship. I think very much, and so I have learned how to live with these losses, which is commendable, which I give myself a shit ton of credit for, that I have learned how to live and navigate with these losses in my life. And I believe that the loss of my son is not something that I will I'll get to a point where I'll be like, okay, I have grieved all that I'm going to grieve, or I have processed all that I'm going to process. And that those feelings of anger or rage or sadness, I will probably experience for all of my days. So I'm very clear about that, but there, in this last session that we had, I learned that I was actually a lot more angry than I thought I was. And I think that is due to just sort of like a feeling of like I gotta just like life's, and the laundry needs to be done, and the proposal needs to get out, and like all of the regular things of life just sort of happen and take up space, that didn't leave room for me to be angry in the way that I needed to be angry in that session, that came out in that session. And the ending of my last relationship, although it was absolutely the right thing for both of us to do, I had not processed all of the layers of the ending of that relationship. Yeah, it was interesting. So what came up was this feeling that I had, as I was sobbing my freaking head off. What surfaced, or what came out as I was like in this rage, in this, I was coming unglued, to the point that when I look back, I can tell that was like down there, that was stuffed down there, way down there, the way that it came up. But what surfaced during that conversation and during that session, the anger that I had, or that came up, was around this feeling that everyone has just moved on with their life, and I have been left here to pick up the pieces, to process the pain, to process the heartbreak, to process the trauma, to process the loss, to process all of the brokenness that I experienced from those two instances. And meanwhile, the individual who was responsible for taking my son's life, one of the individuals that's responsible for it, has moved on with his life. He's going, up. He has seemingly moved on with his life. He is, I don't know what he's doing, but in my head I have a story that, He's going to his kids' birthday parties and his kids' soccer games or baseball games, or he's playing PlayStation, or he's going to the bar with his friends, or whatever he's doing, he has seemingly moved on with his life. And similarly, in my last relationship, although again, I'm re-emphasizing it was the right thing to do. And I think we both have, I don't know, I have not confirmed this with this individual, but I think we both know that it was the right thing to do. But from where I sit, and this is, I don't have a lot of visibility into this individual's life, but I have, it feels like he has just gone on with his life. I've just been left here to pick up the pieces. And so that came up, and that was new. That was a new learning of mine. So that happened. And it is for these reasons that I am beyond grateful that I found my way back to God. I am beyond grateful that I found my way back. And not that everything is unicorns and rainbows by any fucking stretch of the imagination, but what I do know is that I feel safe with him in my life. I feel held. I feel protected. I feel seen. I feel all those things. I'm so glad that I have him as I navigate just this stuff that came up in my therapy session. That I can just be like, God, what is going on? Like, why? You know? So I'm super glad that I have found my way back. Super glad that I found my way back. And what is different about, you know, I grew up in church. I've been in church my whole life. My ex-husband is a pastor. Bless his heart. If you know my ex-husband, you know why I'm laughing. Bless his heart. He's one of my favorite people. I will tell you that. It took us some years to get there. Now, he wasn't always one of my favorite people, but he is one of my favorite people, and he is one of my best friends. And so I say that to say that I've been, you know, immersed in church culture for, you know, as long as I can remember. But this time is different. This time is less about religion and more about relationship. Less about sort of performance and like doing the things, going to church. Not that going to church is bad or that I'm opposed to church. I'm on the hunt for one. Those religious practices that I was told that I had to do, less about that and more about my heart posture, more about how I'm showing up in the world, how I'm representing God when I interact with other humans. Am I showing love, and am I being kind? Am I you know, all those that is what's important to me as I engage in relationship with God now. And what I feel like is I have given my time, and I have given my body, and I have given and committed myself to so many other people and so many other relationships. I have what am I trying to say? I have like given so much energy into making sure and ensuring that my partner is okay and that he has everything that he needs and that he's happy and that he's pleased and satisfied and all of those things, I'm giving that same energy to God. And so my desires and my commitment is to how he feels, and considering his feelings and considering his thoughts and making sure he's okay and considering his perspectives and considering his beliefs and considering his love and considering his kindness, and considering his heart. That is what's first and foremost for me. If I could do it and give my time and my attentions in that way to someone else, I can give it to God. So that is the new way that I am approaching my relationship with God. It feels so different. It feels, I used to have this feeling that I felt like God was like hovering and like lurking in the corners, sort of waiting for me to mess up. And that feeling has subsided. I honestly feel like I actually feel heard. I actually feel seen. And that was a struggle for me just early, like a couple months ago. I was just like, how do you be in a relationship with somebody you can't see? Like, God is invisible. Like, what is this? How does this work? But he's continuing to show me what that looks like for me. And so I'm just grateful. I am grateful for so many things, for so many reasons, and for no reason. I am truly, truly grateful. And so I hope that this particular episode was helpful to you. If you are on the healing girl journey, I remember my hashtag last summer was, what was it? It was something about healing girl summer. I think that's what it was. Healing girl summer. Healing girl summer. I am healing girl summer, winter, spring, and fall. That is where I'm at right now. But if you are on the journey of discovering a therapist, or looking for a therapist, or discovering what healing looks like for you, or uncovering some stuff in your life to sort of figure out how to get not just over and through them, but how to put things in place, especially if they're things that don't serve you and don't put you closer to where it is that you want to be. How to put things into place to mitigate that. So I hope that this was helpful for you. Leave me some love in the chat, in the comment section. Let me hear from you and hear about where you're at with your journey, what healing looks like for you, so that we can all learn together and we can all grow together and we can all be better together. So I thank you so much for being with me and stopping by and chatting with me today. And I will see you next time.